going to unbag or take a quick look at Mark Herman's Burma, The Forgotten War, 1943 to 1944, which was just released in C3i Magazine Number 35 from RBM Studio. It came with this magazine here, which, I've done a kind of a page through on that, and I'll put a link down below to that. But it's, if you're not familiar with C3i magazines, they are really kind of industry. It's kind of a war game industry type magazine. It's really talking about playing war games, strategy, tactics, history of it, somewhat inside baseball, but it's really talking about the games themselves. And so you get a magazine with it, and it has other things in it. Again, check out my video below to see what's in there. But the main thing, or the feature item that is in this magazine, as you can see from the cover, is Mark Herman's Burma, The Forgotten War. And this is a full-blown game. It's based on, or is basically uses the same engine as Empire of the Sun, the Pacific War, 1941 and 1945, which, and again, it's just my opinion, but this is my favorite Pacific Theater game. It's somewhat complicated to get into. It's a little bit different than your traditional hex and counter, so it takes a little bit getting into that. But the way that Mark Herman does it, I really appreciate. I like how it uses card play to move some of the actions forward and your commands, and I think it simulates the Pacific Theater in kind of a operational and strategic manner that is different than you see in a lot of other games. So really like that. And so this system is basically a continuation of that. And this is one of the heftiest rule books that I've ever pulled out of a C3i magazine. I've got several of them, but it's 36 pages long. You've got your sequence of play here on the back side. And there's setup in here because this doesn't have a player, a player's guide or a playbook for scenarios or anything. So everything is self-contained in one book because, you're in the magazine, so you can't have a ton of inserts and what have you there. But, to my understanding, it's going to follow the same system as Empire of the Sun. And so that's, I think, one reason why they have to have 36 pages, because there's a lot to Empire of the Sun. It's quite something to behold. And as I said, it's not overly, it's as complex as most war games on this subject, but it's the reason why it takes a little bit of getting into is the use of the cards. It uses cards to both for events and to kind of move the narrative forward on how you do actions and how you do searches and stuff like that. So it's all kind of based on these cards. So you just got to get used to how the sequence of play works and how that is set up. So you get a full rule book in here, 36 pages, pretty impressive. The counter sheet, again, this is a C3i counter sheet, so it's going to have counters from errata from other games, GMT games, and then it's going to have counters for the other games that are in this magazine. There's actually 3 games that come in this magazine. Two games and 1 expansion for Great Battles of History. And then you get this is really the counter sheet for Burma. It's this section right here. So you get, this is all the counters that you need for that. So, not a lot, right? So this is kind of somewhat of a small footprint game, and you'll see that once you see the map. And then you have the cards. As I said, the cards kind of control the gameplay in this. And you see here you have the cards. These are the Japanese cards, the Japan deck here. And they're perforated, if you can see there, so you're going to have to punch these out, and I'll probably end up sleeving them in clear sleeves. just to give it a little bit of extra reinforcement there. So, and these are the US cards. So you're going to get 1, 2, 3 sheets for the US, and 1, 2, 3, or I guess the Allies, I should say, and 3 for Japan. So 6 sheets, and there's 4 cards per sheet. So you're going to get your cards that you need for the game, and you get your map. And this is the map. It's not a very big footprint map, so that's kind of nice. But you got all your tracks and tables on here, all in one little map here, and you're just focusing on the Burma theater, this theater right here. You actually have the bridge over the River Kwai, or the Kwai Bridge here. Bridge over the River Kwai is the movie. So you have it all laid out right here. You've got your map key, you've got your trains effect charts, everything. I think all the charts you need are right here. As I said, you've got your cards, which drive the play, and then you've got your 36-page rule book, and you have your counter sheet. So this is Mark Herman's Burma. If you're familiar with Empire of the Sun, and I think he's did another, I think he did a South China Sea, or South, I can't remember what it's called, but I think he did another expansion to one of the C3i's, and kind of an expansion to the Empire of the Sun, which I think actually got included. I have to go check. I think it's included in this one. This was the latest edition. This is the second edition, second printing of Empire of the Sun. I think it might have been included in that. I never played it, or haven't got to it yet. So if you're familiar with any of those games, and you're going to be familiar, this is going to be easy to pick up, because it's basically the same system, is my understanding. So anyway, that is what you get when you get C3i number 35 in this magazine, and you get Mark Herman's Burma. And C3i has been taking the games that more recently the games that they produced here, and they've been doing a boxed or deluxe version, which they basically put all this stuff for just Burma in a box. And I don't know if they're going to do that for this, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't go ahead and do that. So anyway, that's a quick look at Mark Herman's Burma, The Forgotten War. I really like Empire of the Sun. I don't play it enough. I want to get into it more, but it does take some time, for me at least, to pick it back up again, because I've got to go through. Again, it's not so complex as it is just different, and so it takes me a while to go through think a different way, to go through the rules and how this game plays out, and then get it to the table. But it is worth getting to the table, and this looks like this is worth picking up as well. Anyway, that's what I have for today. Would love to know what you all think about Empire of the Sun, Burma, or any of the other games that he's done in this, or supplements that he's done in this space. Really love to hear it. And what do you think about the C3i magazine, or more particularly this issue of it? Love to hear that. I was just checking off the Empire of the Sun box. It was South Pacific. They did a scenario in I believe it was number 30. C3i number 30 had South Pacific, which was a scenario for Empire of the Sun, and they eventually released it in this second printing of Empire of the Sun. Anyway, but love to know your thoughts on any of these, but more particularly, this Burma one that's coming out, or the magazine in general. Anyway, thanks for spending some time with me. I know it's precious, and so really, really, really appreciate that, and hope you all have a great rest of the day.
Thanks for watching.